All right. So I got Michael Ho with Titan Tutors with me. Michael, tell us a little bit about your backstory, and I know you did some teaching overseas, and then how you started Titan Tutors.
Oh yeah, so a little bit about me. I don't know how I got into tutoring actually. I think if you told me I was going to get to tutoring when I was in high school, I probably would have told you crazy because I wasn't the academic, the studious type of student. I was more of I wanted to be an NBA rock star, Michael Jordan. So that's what I kind of lived for. So the academics was like probably the last thing that I was ever thinking of. Once the season was over, I maintained my grade. Season was over. Didn't maintain my grade very well, so I don't even know how I got through high school. Um, but after some some trial and tribulations, I ended back in college again. Um, and went the engineering route, like the whole computer science engineering, your typical Asian type of thing. And back at the time, and I don't want to say it because it might sound old, but it was C++. So the programming language right there, right? So now they don't use C++
Right.
anymore. So anybody who hears this podcast probably is gonna be like, "Damn, these guys are kind of old." so, but C++, I looked at the book and there was like Turbo Pascal, and I was like, "Screw that, dude! I'm not doing this. This is so." So yeah, I just in OCC, there was like these cubby holes at the time, again, telling us how old we are. Nothing online. You take out a sheet, pick a bunch of your majors. I chose one major. I saw like, oh, child development. I was like, okay, I like kids. Let me try it. I took a class. For a guy to take a child development course, I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. There's like 29 girls. I'm the other maybe one guy in there. But then I looked at it in a positive sense. I'm one guy with 29 girls, right? So that
Those
was
are good odds.
a very good ratio, right? So yeah, no, but I enjoyed the class. I thoroughly actually enjoyed the class. I did very well in that class, and then it's more than just it's a lot of in depth in terms of the psychology of children and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it, and I actually just went ahead and went on with it, and for the next 4 years of my career or my college career, I ended up just sticking with that. Was gonna go into a master's in counseling. That was my path. I worked for a couple of nonprofits. Olive Crest was one of them, and worked with children in abused homes, sheltered homes, and that was pretty cool too. I enjoyed doing that. And then I just ended up, after I graduated, decided to go teach overseas for a year. I just wanted to get away before I went back to getting my master's, um, and ended up going to Shanghai. They offered me a job after the year to take over their recruitment and their management. Um, and at the time, there were like 22 campuses out there throughout Shanghai. They were one of the largest ones, and they were a public company too. So, but I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to like get paid, also get to learn the language, spend another year, and then kind of get into something that I didn't wasn't originally going to do anyways. Because I actually was ready to go home. So when they offered me, I was like, "Cool, do it." So that 1 year or that 1 year plan turned into like a 3 year plan. Um, and yeah, I ended up loving it. I enjoyed it. Started something with it's kind of like a small preschool type of business there with a business partner back there too. um, but I didn't want to live there, so at the time what I decided was I ended up just kind of, I was ready to move back home. So I ended up moving back home, and I think, to summarize, there was a lot of, you know, things that happened in between a little bit before I got into tutoring, but I ended up just going for tutoring. But um, I don't know why, in a sense. I think it was just a natural transition in terms of what my knowledge was, and then also what I wanted to do different in the community where I started the business, which was Garden Grove.
Mm.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to do something that I never got myself. And I think a lot of the children in the community don't get as well. It's just kind of like these creative type of platforms um,
Mm.
that were away from scores, the pressures of scores. And even back then, if you grow up in the Vietnamese community or you grow up in a Vietnamese family, right, you're always going to be um, prone to the pressures of your parents, the academic achievement, the scores. So making sure that a B is never good enough, an 85% is never good enough. It has to be like top top tier type of score, right? So I always was against that in a sense, in a sense that for me, I think there's um, you explore. If you're able to explore who you are at an early age, you're able to explore who you are even at an older age. You kind of have that you kind of have an understanding more the more things that you touch, whether it be art, whether
Mm.
it be engineering, whether it be coding, whether it be all these different things, but you fail a lot, right? And I think that's this disconcerting thing in the community at the time that I saw. So I just went up, well, I'll just do something different, let me open up something where I'm teaching Lego robotics. I'm teaching art. Um, I'm trying to encourage kids. I'm trying to just motivate kids on their platform. Um,
Mhm.
didn't work very well for the good 6 months. Yeah, didn't, like they were coming in, you don't do homework. I go, I mean, get their homework done, but that's not my primary focus. My primary focus was to just make sure that they're inspired and motivated, and have some type of purpose and touch on things, explore as much as they can. So those were my programs. Yeah, it did. I was sitting there with maybe two students for like a good 6 months. Um, so, I changed. I had to change because if I
Mhm.
wanted to survive, and we somehow turned into an Uber for tutors. So sending in
Mm.
tutors, that don't ever come to the center. They just go to the homes. People contact on our platform, and then they need math. Go, hey, okay, I need a math tutor. Great. Sign up for our service. We send you a math tutor, right? So that's kind of the kind of makeup of Titan Tutors right now. Is we're primarily an in-home online service. So basically, if a parent needs us, they just go into the platform, whatever subject, we send them a tutor. I guess the biggest difference is we get tutors at cost, meaning that a tutor at
Mm.
can, like a company that would charge $60 an hour, you would get a tutor at cost $30 an hour, right? Um, and then we source out the tutors, and we pretty much are kind of the bridge, the middleman, in terms of just making
Mhm.
sure that each area, each city, depending on that city, that we already have the metrics and the data and the analytics of what a parent should be paying in certain areas. So in Garden Grove,
Mm.
we already know that you're not going to pay more than $25 an hour, at most $30 an hour for a very high quality tutor. But that's because obviously in Garden Grove, you're not going to be able to charge more based on a lot of factors and variables, meaning like income level and stuff like that. But you still get a really high quality tutor, so you get them at cost, right? So, yeah, we changed a lot. Like analytics is into play now.
Mm.
Now what statistics are into play, and how we map out certain things. I don't like I wasn't really good in math, but somehow I become more of a math guy in terms of numbers and analytics in business. I can see pattern, but you learn a lot of things in business, but things that you don't like paying bills. But
Right.
you don't like bills a lot. But that's kind of the makeup of what Titan Tutors is currently as of now. It's a home service. Make it very simple. We try to make sure that's affordable, and that's pretty much what we are right now. For me, I I don't know if that's what I envision in the future for myself in the next three to five
Mhm.
years. Um, you know, I envision other things right now, and I envision trying to do something else that's more creative again. Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is kind of quite a journey you have there. Let's go back and talk about when you were you had first started out and you were kind of offering working with those two students and doing the Legos. Um, it sounded like you were trying to fill a gap that you thought or you had perceived as far as the marketplace and maybe the cultural, right? You
Right.
know, you did talk about, hey, you know, Asians are about STEM, right? But now
Right.
you try to kind of bring an additional component to that.
Right.
But you did have a challenge kind of providing that to the marketplace. Can you talk a little bit more about, you know, why you did provide that for the community, and then kind of more the challenges and roadblocks you faced as you tried
Yeah.
to say, hey, I think this is good for your student, it's good for your kids,
Yeah.
but the marketplace has to respond, right?
Right. Right. For sure. And I think at the time, because that was like 7 years ago too. And this was kind of my first entry into actually running a business on my own. Now, the previous
Mm-hmm.
business in China, it wasn't really I ran it on my own. I didn't take care of the operations. I just really did what I did well, and that was teach and learn and and implement curriculum, right? Um, this was a whole different animal in the sense that, you know, yes, I have a passion in terms of developing, you know, new things. And I think the way that my mind works is more on a creative stance. Um, and that's what I wanted to bring. I wanted to make sure that students had that ability to at least explore at a certain age, and they always call it age appropriate, right? So what's age appropriate for certain children at what stages of their lives and whatnot. And I think for me that was the biggest challenge. One of the biggest challenge was I have this vision, um, I have this passion, and it's in my mind it's very logical, right? In my mind, I know students very well. In my mind, I grew up in the community. I grew up in Garden Grove. I went to Clinton Elementary, Doig, Santiago, all of them, right? I knew what a student can be left behind with, in terms of if they're not getting the appropriate attention, right? And I knew the challenges of a student. What I didn't understand was business, and I didn't understand it. I just went off of basically all of what I thought was good, and I thought was, hey, this just makes sense that it's not being done in the community. It's not there. The students are going to love it. Um, I didn't focus on was who was the actual paying client, right? Right.
Right.
And it made sense. I mean, in my standpoint, there's pros and cons to the way that I work. And the pro is, yeah, I love what I do. The con is you love too much of it and you have too much knowledge and you can't see and you can't filter enough sometimes. And you at the beginning phases, you're always doing things alone, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
there's no really accountability that you have to anybody really. You're accountable kind of to yourself. As
Mm-hmm.
long as the bills and the rent is paid, you're not really accountable to anybody. So your decision making becomes very sometimes not in check. So you get to do whatever that you kind of want. You get to test a lot of things. And I think in the beginning of businesses, if you don't have, and everything was kind of self-funded. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't that much to start up with tutoring, right? I subleased the front of an office, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like $400 a month the guy gave me. The back was like a bus repair shop, right? So you hear people like you know yelling at each other sometimes and stuff like that. But hey, that's what you got. Um, so I mean, I think ego also at the beginning was very very permanent. You don't want to listen to a lot of people, and I think one of the guys told me, like when I was leasing and I was looking for space, he's like, "Don't ever hire difficult students." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I go, "Those are the students that I want. I mean, don't ever register difficult students." I go, "I would love to register. Those are the students I'm trying to change, right?" But on a business, I understand now, like in retrospect, 7 years later, there takes so much. It's not. I always
Mm-hmm.
say it's when you're working with students, if you look at them like a product, um, like something that's just a tangible product, an item on the shelf. Yeah, you can reproduce that all the time, right? The same thing, the same consistency all the time. However, that doesn't work for students because they're human and every student's different. What they're going through, their development over time has a big impact of what their confidence is and how you're going to be able to be impactful and help them. And sometimes it takes years. And I think that's what I didn't understand. That I thought that I could convince the community through my own background and through my own, because I'm Vietnamese as well, um, that I can kind of share my story and I can convince them that, you know what, you can fail um, multiple times, and they're going to continue, but how do you sustain good health in the mind, um, and not go into a different track like suicide, mental health, stuff like that. Because I've even been through it. I have friends that have been through it. So those are big challenges for me. Is like, you know, the whole things that you don't like to do, the accountings that are important, the finances, managing the finances that are important to your business. Um, a lot of those things, like when you have an idea, your strength sometimes is your weakness, and you just go without a lot of preparation work, um, and you start understanding why the preparation is needed and why actually accountability is needed, right? Like you're the owner,
Mhm.
you're the boss, but the problem is if there's nobody holding you accountable, you come up with these ideas, and what you're saying is like it took me probably a good year to really go, all right, I cannot do it this way. I have to kind of abide by what the market wants, right? Like, to
Mhm.
kind of answer your question. And the market at the time where I was at in Garden Grove didn't want that, didn't understand it, too complicated. Um, and we couldn't communicate it in a very clear, sustainable way. Um, and it just wasn't resonating to them. So they had no choice. Do that or close up shop. So I
Yeah.
had to change the makeup of it, though I didn't like it because I was not pro come in, let me fix your homework, let me add additional worksheets for you. Um, I didn't like doing that because that's not what I wanted to do, But I had to do
Mhm.
it so that
Mhm.
I could hopefully sustain it and then
Yeah.
reintroduce it later on. So that was my strategy at the time.
So I know a lot of times as business owners, um, it's hard for us to understand the perspective of our customers and our clients because
Hmm.
we're kind of on the other side of the table,
Right.
and we're like inside the bottle and can't see what's on the label,
Oh, for sure.
right?
100%.
Right.
100%.
And
Yes.
so, as you kind of experience what you really couldn't do and
Mhm.
what you wanted to, but the people weren't really paying for it.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about the time you go, okay, I gotta this can't I can't keep doing this. I want to do this, but I can't keep the lights on if I keep doing this. I need to do something else. Can you talk about that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough because, like, you know, it's something that you plan. It's something that you in your head and even in your mind you envisioned, like this is it's going to be great. You're going to be able to, and I've done it too. It's not like this is something that was new that I haven't tried. I did it with a partnership with Cal State Fullerton. We did it overseas. I mean, as a student, I did it. These enrichment camps where we gave kids more hands-on type of learning, and I saw it. I saw it in real life, and I wanted to bring it down here. And I was like, this is great. We can provide different opportunities, get kids to be introduced, and not have to sit in a classroom and told that they have to read for 30 minutes a day, and they're not even reading, they're just flipping a book, right, or flipping the pages.
Mm-hmm.
I can really invigorate them. I can really just kind of just reinvent it a little bit, um, and then 6 months or 7 months later you only have two kids in the class, right? So you're right, and you're trying, but at the end of the day you couldn't figure out why, but you want to
Mm-hmm.
continue because at the end of the day, at the time I didn't understand, but I just had to alter it because I wasn't making no money, revenue was coming in. So no revenue is coming in, no cash flow is coming in. There's no choice but for me it's like it forced my hand. Nobody told me to do it, right? Nobody told you, hey,
Mm-hmm.
change your systems out. You need to do this way. You needed it, it was just, at the time I didn't have any resources. It was just kind of myself playing it out and then just going, hey, you know what? I just well, we only got 2 in 6 months. I don't think it's gonna.
Right.
I don't think it's gonna change anytime soon, right? So yeah, I introduced. I kind of re-messaged everything and just changed the whole outlook and just kind of copied the model that was already out there. I mean, it's not that difficult. Anybody can really open up a tutoring center, to be honest.
Right. Right. And you did talk about earlier. Now you've gone into a different direction,
Hmm.
and kind of like an Uber for tutorings,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
tutors, right? And
Mhm.
was how was that transition from from straight tutoring, from the two students, and then how did you move into now
Uh,
you're kind of brokering, or you're
mhm.
really sending out tutors
Right,
and
right,
placing them
right.
for families?
That transition happened. So I ended up once I changed the model, we grew the students out, and then we ended up moving into another location, a larger location. So at the time, I was 400 square feet. We moved into a 1,300 square feet a year after. Um, and for me, I felt like I wasn't doing anything different, really.
Mm,
That model of just getting kids finish their homework, it's all the same stuff. Eh, the bad thing about me too is I always changed the model out, and I was trying to find a model that fit, I guess, not what the market wanted, but what I was
mm,
relatively mentally able to do year by year by year. Um,
mm,
and I think that's again another weakness for not having that accountability at the time, because the models changed. Like, how can I serve 10 kids and I'm the only tutor, like a 10-to-1 ratio, right? How can I serve them um, and get them equal attention, right? I mean, I sat down there, I clocked the time, I did every metric. How much time can I actually spend? And I'm like, how are these parents able to say that they're able to get their kids ahead from other centers or whatnot, when I'm here sitting here struggling handling 10 kids, same grade level, but then different minds, right? So I feel like I wasn't given the greatest of quality, and then at the same time we're not charging a lot, right? So because in
mm,
that community too, price is very sensitive for them, right? So you have to deal in a way where and I didn't understand that either, and that's another problem that I had was I undercut, but then the quality was undercut too. I couldn't sustain.
mm,
So I had to change. So I changed a couple of systems out, didn't work um, to my liking. Um, Maybe income was okay, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I
mm,
changed to a model where I go, well, why don't we just do high volume, hit them at what the market wants, and that market was, well, we don't have like one-on-one type of tutoring, right? But then one-on-one where people travel to your home. Um, and then I'm like, well, they want volume of hours too. So I looked at that and I listened to that data, and the volume of hours matters, not the quality of the tutoring matters, right?
mm. Wow.
Um, so lowering the cost down, and at the time, that was like 4 years ago, I charged as low as $15 an hour, but I'll just hire an entry level college student, but a second grader, who needs consistent reading, where a parent can't read because their language abilities, they don't have the capability due to their language. I go, that makes sense. That's easy. That's safe. That doesn't throw bad quality. As long as the tutors are safe, we just send them in. $15 an hour. We take a 20% cut, whatever. We don't do a lot of work. We just match and broker and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, from a center full of 12 students to now 200 plus students, it grew out. Um, and that's kind of what our existing model, and we've changed over our time more of the model, and we try to now continue to, obviously a lot of challenges as you grow out more and more. Would I say that's my passion? No. I wouldn't say like just a broker tutors was not what I thought, like being the Uber for tutors. Even to this date, I am challenged of trying to figure out what the solution is. um,
Mm,
what's like, especially when you have kids now, it's different too. Like, you want to do something that you enjoy, but then
hmm.
also brings you purpose, so that when you go home, you have a reason why sometimes you stay late at the office, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you cut away from your kids' time. So even for me, that's the transition because I kind of had to do something a little bit minorly different to survive in the market. Because really, what am I doing differently if in the old model of just homework tutoring, group tutoring type of thing? I wasn't one-on-one. Felt like it gave me at least ethically something that I could do where at least I can provide somewhat of a little better quality. Not how
Hmm.
much better? It's not. I wouldn't say we're like the standard of all tutoring centers, right?
Right. Okay. And now that you've kind of got this newer model and you're brokering tutors, I'm sure it
Mhm.
hasn't been smooth sailing ever since you started this model. Talk about some of the challenges or conflicts on the way of establishing this particular model.
There's many challenges, right? So even if you look at like an Uber concept, at the time it sounded like a great idea, but even now to date, Uber in itself is having issues, right?
Mm.
Uber probably isn't the best model to always follow because they're continuing to raise capital, and if you delve and dip deeper, how they're making their money is through raising capital. They're not really sustainable currently in terms of whether they're profitable, right? The profitability
Mm-hmm.
depends on raising capital. So if you look
Right.
at industry and the industries that are in there, now if you look at art industry, it's a little bit different though. Um, to this date, they were saying by 2020, the tutoring industry in itself would be a $20 billion industry. How true that
Mm.
is, I don't know if it's actually quite 20 billion. Um, Maybe 5 billion, 10 billion possibility. Um, but there's a lot of entry into tech, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so for our challenges is because we hire so many tutors. Um, how do you make sure that you have good quality tutors, but then it's also affordable for parents, right? Because you have industry leaders, you have people that are trying to not. I'm not the only Uber for tutors type of model,
Mm.
right? But they have also a high level of capital that we don't
Mm-hmm.
have. So we cannot compete with them just by marketing dollars, right? We can't battle that. We'll lose all the time. So I have to find different strategies. My team has to find different strategies. How do we make an impact? But then also know that our tutors at the end of the day aren't are independent contractors, right?
Mm.
So that's also tricky. But knowing that most of our tutors are independent contractors, the rest of the industry are also like that. They're independent
Mm.
contractors, right? So there is actually no loyalty into that. So what's our differentiator
Mm.
really? Is one is that, to be honest, our model now consists of a very simple system. It's a membership model, right? And
Mm.
it it works for the parents in the sense that they get tutors at cost. Yes, they have to pay a fee. So most parents will be like, well, why do I have to pay a membership fee? Well, at the end of the day, we also have to do the work, right? We have to source the tutors out. And then on top of that, now instead of paying $60 an hour, you're paying half the cost or more than sometimes 60% of less than what you would be paying, like, let's say, one of the industry leaders, right? So instead of paying
Mm-hmm.
$60 an hour, you're paying anywhere from 25 to $30 an hour for the same tutor. How do we know that? Because we all hire from the same people because they're all independent
Mm-hmm.
contractors, right? So, those tutors work for us, our tutors work for them, but everybody's happy. Where we win is, yeah, over time we will win by the relationship model. Um, but I really do truly believe in our industry, the relationship model matters. Um, but for us, I don't look at that just like home tutoring again isn't something that is like it gets me super excited. It's one part of the business now. I think
Mm-hmm.
the evolution of where we're at now or where I'm at now has evolved a lot more. There was a lot of learning that I've done through that 7 to 10 years. I know a lot more about independent contracting law. Um, I think, as you know, Dan, I've been through, you know, so those are a lot of things that I've learned. Structure, operation of a business,
Mm-hmm.
the right team, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then even you can have great ideas, but then the probably the most important thing is, can you execute on them correctly? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you
Mm-hmm.
execute on those ideas? but then there's so many opportunities and so many, it's great to see that there's so much opportunity out there. But
Hmm.
now, how do you restrain those and be patient with those, and then also choose the right ones? And I think that's the trick to running a successful business in a sense. But
Hmm.
also, it does matter about the team. I think at the end of the day is who you surround yourself with. So yeah, those are a lot of challenges. Is for the most part, the more you grow, hiring the right people are very, very important. Um,
Hmm.
that believe in what your value is. And I think for me, it was always not being able to recognize that in terms of I should have probably fired a few people first rather than just let them go and then trust them more, right? But I was
Yeah.
always, that's probably a hard part that I had to learn too. I'm not that type of person that is that stickler to go, hey, you know what? I understand. I always give opportunity. I try to retrain, but even then, you only have so much capability on your own. Like for myself as well, I
Right.
have so much capability and skill that I can do on my own. And as much as I want to do everything, I think as a business owner, letting go is probably the hard part.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did talk a little bit about, what you learned as a business owner.
Hmm.
Share a little bit about your transformation, um, as as a parent, um, as a husband, and maybe even more as a business owner from your experience, um, partly running that center in Shanghai
Hmm.
all the way to now.
Hmm. Um, you know, everything I think goes in phases, and everything doesn't last forever, right? There's always like stages, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, like a little bit more about my background, I grew up without a dad, so it's hard. It's like you kind of do things a lot on your own, and my mom was like that, the working mom.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's a working parent nowadays, but like for her circumstances, she had to take care of me, so she was working from 9 to like 9. I hardly ever see her. I was like shipped to a babysitter for most of my life, until my grandmother flew over. So for most of my life, I kind of had to kind of figure out those nuances a little bit, of how to deal with situations. So I always say that things
Mm-hmm.
don't always last forever, and the reason why I push, and probably and through even my own kind of development and soul searching as well, um, is the reasons why you are, um, in terms of it starts at an early age, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
impact you. And the reason why I gravitated to that major of child development, you start learning why things are there, right? Because you always
Mm-hmm.
want to self improve, right? Um,
Right.
but there's always this deep thing that I don't want to get too philosophical, but I always for me, always wanted to learn more about why I was the way that I was, to self improve for my kids,
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't follow the same path. Because there's certain things in decision making that I made at an early age that I didn't do, that I didn't make a very, very good decisions. And they trickle into habit and into your adult life, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of have to deal with it. So how do you teach that to your kids if you haven't dealt it yourself, right? You can say all the good things, but it's kind of hard to tell them if you're not the one that has kind of resolved them, right?
Right.
So in that sense, to kind of answer your question on that standpoint with my kids, and how it changed me through marriage even, um, it's a lot of communication, and you start learning more that I think key to anything, right, is communication, and how hard it is to understand each other, and how communication can differentiate from one person to another person, from one age to another age. And sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
forget that we have to listen to our kids and understand them as well. And in our community, sometimes we're like, you don't have to understand me, or you have to understand me because I'm the adult. We don't ever
Mm-hmm.
try to understand the kid, right? And why the kid, I mean, he's 5 or he's 4, and why do you think the way that you think, and et cetera, and why not? To get the root at the problem a little bit more. It has, I mean, I was always kind of a patient person, but it's helped me be more patient. Um, kind of identify more of why I want to do certain things, they kind of hold me accountable in a sense, right? Um,
Hmm.
my wife and my kids. I mean, my kids don't go, "Hey, Dad, you can't do that," you know. But they're always looming when on certain decisions like you want to do. Sometimes
Right.
have to think about them first, and that was
Hmm.
never
Hmm.
before that. It was never there. Like, oh, I'm just gonna make a decision. Um, you don't need to think about that because you didn't have kids. But any decision that is major or big adjustments, how does that affect your kids? Any actions that you take. Um, Sometimes you get cut off in front of you when you're on the freeway. You sometimes think too now. You're like you don't just spout
Right.
off,
Right.
right? So it's like for in a sense, it was a good thing for me because it helped me kind of think a little bit more deeply, and I think I'm a better communicator for it now. I'm more patient. I'm more open um, to letting people in a little bit more.
Hmm.
It was been a struggle for that for the years past, but I don't want my kids to live in a world where they're very non-inclusive, non-open.
Hmm. Hmm.
Obviously, want to be safe, but I really do think that 90% of the world is good, and obviously you're going to have like that 5 to 10% that are bad. It's like business, right? Like
Hmm.
you have
Right.
most of your business, most of your customers are great. Yeah, that 2% that just make it seem like it's everybody, right?
Right. Right.
So in that sense, yeah. I mean, in retrospect, I think that's helped me a lot more. I still have these ambitions and these ideas and these challenges that I fight a lot, right? Um,
Hmm.
but that's why I go, it's great to see if we can create something for the community where kids should be exploring from ages 1 to 12 to 14. They should be
Hmm.
exploring everything.
Right.
If they want to be a lawyer, go talk to Dan. Let them intern or whatever. Like create some like mock trial, but make it fun. Do it in hip hop. Do it in rap. Do it in whatever. But let them explore it. Let them see it. The more they're able to touch, the more they're able to explore. And I think and if you read any child development book, right, that's where they learn. Just in the first few years of their age is they're exploratory. They're learning. They're touching them. It's new to them. So the more you're able to
Hmm.
kind of give them that, I believe like over time, it's easier for them to kind of see what they really want to do and they truly want to invest in, rather than like later on, like at age 40, they're trying to figure that out now, right? I mean, it's not
Right. Right.
nothing that it's not possible, but it's more challenging, definitely, right? So,
Right.
so I do a lot of my decision making with my kids in mind now,
Hmm.
more than what I've done before. Mhm.
All right. Cool. Cool. All right. So we're at the end, but we've got rapid fire questions here.
Mhm.
So just give me the first thing that pops in your head
Mhm.
for these questions. All right. So who do you look up to?
Oh man, uh, who do I look up to? There's one person. It's always been looming. She's my mentor, Carrie Knudsen Miller. She, I think, is the vice president of Cal State Fullerton, or was.
All right.
Mhm.
Cool. So what's the best business advice you've ever gotten?
Um, do things and don't expect them in return. Just do
Okay.
it.
All right. What's the best book you've ever read?
Oh man, that's gonna be a hard one, Dan. I don't read much. Uh, I would say there's this book from Warren Buffett that he recommended, but I don't have the title. It's about relationships and building relationships. It's an awesome book. Man, put me on that spot. I was supposed to type that one out, but I forgot what it's called. But it's a rapid fire, so I don't remember it. I'm sorry.
Okay. All
It's a
right. So
book
by Warren. Okay.
by Warren Buffett. It's about relationships
Okay.
and building relationships and why by building authentic, genuine relationships. I live by that.
Okay. All right. And if you had to do one thing over again, what would you do?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right.
Yeah.
And what
Learn
is
by
the
your
biggest
mistakes.
challenge? What is your biggest challenge in your business right now?
My own mind and not trying to overextend myself.
All right. Okay. Hey, we've got welcome Michael Ho from Titan Tutors. Hey, if we've got kids or we know someone that might benefit from the services of a tutor, where can we find you?
You can go to my site, titantutors.com. You can also see us on Facebook and Instagram. We do have that. I do have a couple new projects coming up, but it's more of my passion of what I want to do is trying to redo it in a nonprofit way, though, the creative exploration. But that's going to be cool too. I actually had to talk to Dan about that. I got to talk to him about nonprofit.
Okay. All right. So, hey, I want to thank Michael again for your time here. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey and your business. And we'll talk again soon. But, obviously, best of luck in your endeavors.
Oh, man. Thank you. It was super exciting to be on the show. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Talk to you soon.